Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And today, this is a very special occasion because we have been podcasting for 52 weeks.
Woo!
So, to celebrate the occasion, we have a very special guest with us.
I'm Justin from the Crit Academy.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, Justin. I figured I wanted to do something special for this episode, so what better person to have on than you?
Oh, well, thank you. I can feel the love.
All right, so for today's episode, we're going to do things just a little bit different. We don't have listener-submitted questions for today. Instead, what we're doing is every week since we started the podcast, I've been putting a discussion question on our subreddit, on our Facebook page, on our Twitter, those sorts of things. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through those questions, the three of us. So basically it's like a year in podcasting, a year in review. We're going to be going through some of these questions that I've come up with and, hopefully get some quick, fun discussion out of it. Before we get into all of that, let me ask Justin, how are you doing today?
I am doing awesome, Gabe. Thank you for asking.
No problem.
I'm coming off of a high from a listener, a patron of ours just ran an adventure last week for us. And I have not come down from that cloud of awesome yet.
Well, that's really cool. That's really cool. I know you did mention that there's going to be a game going on, and I wanted to, but I don't know. I've had a lot I've had to get done this week, and I still have a lot I do need to get done before I go back to work next week. And I don't know, just wasn't too convenient for me.
Yeah, between holidays and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes just not in the cards.
Right. So Jeff, how are you doing this week?
Just kind of been a lazy holiday for me.
Yeah.
Kind of a little out of sorts. My back is out, so I'm not able to get around too much. But I mean, I don't really do a whole lot that involves physical activity anyway. So,
Sure.
So it hasn't been too bad.
Okay.
But.
Well, I'm very glad to have both of you here. This has been a really fun year for us with this podcast. Yeah. And Justin, I'm super appreciative that we met you during that year, and I'm glad that I got to be on your podcast. You got to be on ours. I'm glad that we met.
I'm gonna have to have you on more often.
Absolutely. I guess for me, pretty much just the same stuff as you guys. Have just been busy with stuff between the holidays. Visiting family, having family come visit us, cooking a lot of food. Oh, I made another turkey.
Uh-huh.
This one turned out pretty darn good.
Good.
I figured out the way to do it. I can't try and actually cook it in the smoker. What I have to do is put it in the smoker for like an hour and a half and then put it in the oven for the rest of 3 or 4 hours.
Okay.
Then it comes out perfect. It's so good.
So that way you're using the smoker to get the flavor you want, and then you're just cooking it in the oven. Nice.
Exactly. I will try it again once it's not, 15 degrees outside.
Sure.
But so far I've had very, very little luck with it actually trying to cook it in there. Mm. So for the time being, that's what I'm going to do.
I tried asking my dad about it, but he was like, oh, I cheat. I use an electric one.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Okay, well, I guess you guys want to go ahead and get into the episode?
Sure.
Gabe.
Yes.
Jeff.
Uh-huh.
It's been a long night of adventuring. You're traveling through the woods looking for a good opportunity to camp. And off in the distance, you're distracted. You see floating orbs of light that have grabbed your attention. And unfortunately, your curiosity has gotten the best of you. What are these lights? So you chase them down. And as you get closer and closer, you start to hear giggling, high-pitched squeals. You get closer and closer. Give me a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, gosh.
Right. Okay, for myself, I rolled a 10.
Okay.
I'm not super Oh, no. Jeff, what's that number that you just got?
I rolled a 1.
All right, so as you guys are chasing these glowing lights, these lanterns, you're not paying attention to your footing, and you step into a pile of quicksand, and your bodies are being sucked underneath. You're grabbing at vines and trees and at each other, fighting and trying to pull yourselves out. But unfortunately, you can't. And as you take your last deep breath, and you drop, falling, until you hit with a loud crash into a solid ground, you guys have stumbled into the Dragon's Horde.
Ooh.
Awesome.
It was great if that quicksand was that that
the quicksand cloak. That's where I thought you were going with that for a moment.
The quicksand cloak that also has a dragon's horde inside of it.
That would be pretty awesome.
That'd be cooler. I wish I would have thought of that.
Would that be like a what, blue dragons? They're the ones in the
yes, blue dragons are in the desert.
in the desert.
All right. So for this one, like I said before, we're kind of going to be doing this a little different than normal. One of our questions, in fact, the second discussion question that I put up was, what is your favorite magic item? Now I think Jeff and I I think we might have discussed our favorite magic items on our 20th episode. We kind of did a bunch of like little favorites on that episode. But, basically just briefly, if each of us want to talk about a magic item that we like, I think that'd be something cool to do.
Sure.
Okay, so Justin, you want to go first?
Sure. Now, this was an item that was made by a friend of mine who ran a game a while ago. He called it the Banshee Shriek. This was weapon was a longsword. The hilt of the sword is made from the skull of a small banshee, still wrapped in pink flesh. This weapon is fueled by the spirits of long-dead demons in order to power its attacks. This sword has ability called wail. It can use once a day. The banshee's face in the hilt releases a mournful wail. This wail has no effect on constructs or undead. All other creatures within 30 feet of you that can hear it must make a DC Constitution saving throw of 13. If that creature has less than 100 hit points, on a failure, a creature drops to 0 hit points. On a success, a creature takes 3d6 or 10 psychic damage. Additionally, any creature who failed the check has its soul sucked into the hilt to be devoured by the banshee. The caster may roll up to 1/5 its maximum hit die immediately.
Wow.
Yikes.
That's pretty cool. So you do this wail with the weapon, and then the targets have to make a save, or either die, or take a bunch of damage, and then the wielder gets hit points back. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, the problem with this weapon is that it's any creature.
Oh,
so not only can it only be used once a day, but it'll probably take out your allies as well.
Wow.
So it was designed with the idea that it was a last ditch effort if we were surrounded by enemies and we had nothing else to lose. It's very dangerous. One time I did lose an ally to using this, but we were outnumbered and we made a bad decision and we were going to die, and this is the item that kind of saved the day.
Yeah.
A couple of us made it out, but
yeah, that's really cool. That's a neat item. It's got some really cool flavor to it. And I love you said that the hilt was made of a skull.
Yeah, of a banshee.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I just think it's cool to have. It's got a powerful ability, but it can affect your allies, so it's not something that you use often. Yeah,
that's really cool. It almost reminds me of, in the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, the Way of the Long Death, the monk archetype in there. They have an ability that makes enemies run away in fear, but I realized after reading it that it's not just enemies, it's anyone who can see them.
Yeah.
So similar thing. It's a powerful ability, but it's very limited in that you can't really use it when you're in a party very much.
Right.
Okay, Jeff, did you have an item you want to talk about? It could be a homebrew one, could be one from the Dungeon Master's Guide, whatever.
Well, I like the old classic, the handy haversack.
Yeah.
I've been really needing a new backpack lately. So,
okay.
That's when I was thinking magical items. So, like, I usually like the more mundane ones because just the ones that are, I don't know, they're just more like quality of life stuff.
Sure.
And you can always find like creative ways to use them, But I mean, something like the handy haversack, it's not quite as expensive as the bag of holding. Has more, can hold more than like a normal, backpack, or a pouch or whatever.
And it's also it's easier to use because, like, in 3rd edition, it took a free action to retrieve an item as opposed to like a standard action or something.
Yeah.
So weird thing, in 5th edition, the handy haversack is more rare than a bag of holding and thus would cost more, despite the fact that as written, the handy haversack has no advantage over the bag of holding in 5th edition because both of them have the same text for what kind of an action it takes to retrieve something.
Interesting.
It's weird. I feel like it's got to be a typo, but it hasn't been fixed after all this time.
Sure. Okay, so to specify the 3rd edition.
3rd edition Hero's Handy Haversack.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we may be talking about bags of holding again in a little while for a different question.
Oh, sure.
Spoilers for later in the episode when we may or may not talk about least favorite magic items.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, every character I've ever made has had a handy haversack of some kind.
Yeah, you kind of have to. If you got the gold, you might as well, because like, when are you not going to want to take something out of your bag as a move action or free action or whatever? Exactly.
And especially in a campaign where you're getting like a lot of money and stuff, that's gonna be something you're gonna buy, or you might even just find one depending on the campaign.
Yeah, I really could use one in real life, because I keep losing stuff. I keep losing stuff in a it's a backpack. It hasn't gone far. I just can't find it.
Right.
See, I like the bag of holding, but I also think that it takes away some of the opportunities, and that's why I don't think I really give those out anymore.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay, well, for myself, I'm going to go with an item that actually our good friend Chris made.
Oh,
Chris sound here.
Dang.
There was a campaign. I think it might have been the Ichi campaign. Ichi sound here. I don't know. It might have been the Ichi campaign. It might have been the one right after it. But whatever the case, there was a campaign where Chris was running, and he gave my character a bow that was called Theralar's Fist. It was a great bow, so it was like a long bow, but it did a little bit more damage. And back in 3rd edition, it was a composite great bow. Back in 3rd edition, composite bows allowed you to add your strength modifier to damage, which normal bows didn't. However, each one had a maximum you were allowed to use. So if you had a +2 strength bonus and you found a +1, like a composite longbow with a maximum strength bonus of +1, you only got to add +1 to your damage. You didn't get to add +2.
Sure.
Well, Theralar's Fist was a longbow. It was a great bow that had no maximum on the strength. So in other words, like someone with a +5 strength could get his full benefit out of it. A +10 strength, if such a thing existed, could get the same, the full benefit out of it. And it was a really, really simple item. It was just a bow that didn't have the restrictions that other bows had. But the fact that it was called Theralar's Fist, that made it even cooler.
Yeah.
And then this same bow showed up in various campaigns that we did. And then there was even a time where I was running a game, I gave Jay's character Theralar's Fist. And not only that, but I had him meet someone who was related to Theralar. I think like he was talking to some guy, and the guy mentioned his son Theralar was a ranger that had like just gone out into the world or something. Anyway, I just thought it's a really cool, simple item, but just like a little touch of flavor to it can really make it something so much more than what it is.
I've heard you talk of this bow before, and every time I always picture like Green Arrow with like the punching with like the boxing glove.
Yeah.
So you just got to put a boxing glove at the end of the arrow, and you can add your strength modifier.
There you go. I think in one of the campaigns, it wasn't a campaign where I gave it out, but it was a campaign where I was running one of the sessions, and so one of the players used it, and I described pulling back on the string as if it was like warping reality just a little bit, because it was allowing someone to use such a powerful strength that a bow technically shouldn't be able to use. So like it's almost like the reality itself is warping as they draw that string back.
You're punching the arrow.
Yes.
Giving it a little extra boost.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard. So once again, we covered the Banshee Shriek, the Handy Haversack, and Theralar's Fist. And I think those are some cool items.
Yep.
All right. So Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit magic items for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, or questions for us to discuss, how would they do so?
They can send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
All right. And I'm sorry, Justin, I'm sorry we didn't do this earlier. Why don't you tell people about Crit Academy?
Oh, if you don't know about Crit Academy, obviously you guys talk about it regularly now.
Sure.
Our show is a weekly Dungeons & Dragons podcast where we provide guidance to our heroes and hopefully deliver new and reusable material for both players and DMs. We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you on your next adventure.
Cool. And yeah, I think you guys do a great job at that. You are currently going through like a class-by-class coverage of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which is really, really cool.
Yes, we have a couple different subsets of our show. This one's our class analysis, and it's appears to be some of our listeners' favorites, so that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I really like it. I really liked when you guys did the classes from the Player's Handbook, and now you're doing the Xanathar's Guide. All right, you guys want to go ahead and get into some questions?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so our first of many questions today. What is your favorite class to play and why?
Yes. Justin, you want to go first?
Sure. And I know Joam listens to this and a couple of our several of our other listeners, so I'm gonna have to backpedal on something I just told him, because he recently asked me, "Oh, is Barbarian your favorite class?" And you know what I told him? No, Wizard is. But you know what? I think I'm finally making the shift. Up until recently, the Wizard was always my favorite, but now I've gone with being a Barbarian or a straight fighter. Personally, because I feel like I've got way more control over what I can do when it comes to interacting directly with the environment. As a Barbarian, I can grab a guy, slam him against the wall, I can kick him to the ground, smash his face into a counter, I can toss him in a cart, I can pick up a cart, smash him, interacting with the environment I get a lot of fun out of, and I find that when I play like a direct fighter or mauler class or brawler, I really feel like I get more of that. And so I'm starting to go from the Wizard being my favorite with creativity is now the fighter and Barbarian specifically.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar thing. Like for a long time, Wizard or Sorcerer, probably Sorcerer was my favorite. But now I ever since 4th edition, I really got to say that I really like playing just like an up in your face fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I always loved the idea of playing a monk, but I've never actually gotten to play one long enough for it to be worth it.
Sure. Yeah, for me, a similar thing where it's like I've always liked Ranger. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite idea of a class, but favorite class to play, I gotta go with everybody else. It's like a fighter or a Barbarian. I want to say probably closer to fighter, at least when I'm thinking of like 3rd edition and stuff like that, which is what I played the most.
Yeah.
A lot of the later books like this, the second player's handbook. Mm-hmm. You got like a bunch of new feats and stuff like that. Like
and then like complete warrior,
things like that. Like eventually they made it like you could make an incredibly like focused fighter, and like with who could do like amazing feats, feats as in
like feats of skill and
feats of skill and strength, not the feats in the book, but
right.
But I do remember, making a fighter. We were doing like epic levels or something like that. But I took as much as I could out of those books to build like this like perfect fighter who could wield a 2-handed hammer and like just hit somebody once and send them
knock
flying
them across the room.
Yeah. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's funny because the more I read, I read a lot of people saying that the fighters and the Barbarians are some of the most boring classes, but I really think that comes down to playstyle. If you just say, yeah, I attack and roll your dice and you're done, yeah, that's pretty lame. But if you start thinking about all the things you can do outside of just saying I swing my weapon, you can have so much fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's when you're given less options that you get more creative.
Yeah, definitely.
I just had my Barbarian that I just played last Wednesday. His name was Zazu, and he was a little goblin Barbarian grappler. And and one of the players gave him fly. So he grabbed 2 guys and flew up as high and then dropped them. And then power bombed himself on top of another one. So,
yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. I guess let's go to the next one.
Let's see. Aside from D&D, what other tabletop role-playing games have we played?
I personally, I've played D&D. I've played my brother's game, The Mountain Witch, which we've talked about in previous episodes. I've played Mutants and Masterminds, which is another D20 system. I've played very, very briefly the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness role-playing game. There's a game called Dogs in the Vineyard, which is it's a more narration-based role-playing game where you play as like cowboy missionaries. I feel like there's others. They'll probably come to me as
Is that like Nicholas D. Wolfwood in Trigun, where he's the priest, but he's got a giant cross that's loaded with like pistols and stuff?
Nice. Yeah. In this game, like everybody starts off with a gun, and then you can have like a knife, and then all of the things. Then you have like a bunch of skills. All of your skills and all your weapons and whatever, they just add to your dice pool. So like anytime, if you are ever in a situation where having a gun would be useful, you roll that die along with everything else. If you're ever in a situation where like the fact that you're a missionary would be useful, you roll that along with everything else, and so on and so on.
So is there a time when your gun is useful as well as the fact that you're a missionary?
Then you roll all of them.
Nice.
Yeah. So like it's kind of, you try to come up with ways to explain why this would be useful in the current situation.
I like that.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Jeff, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Yeah, my list is kind of short. D&D for sure. I played. Does Pathfinder count? No.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, technically, I don't know if I ever played a full session of Pathfinder.
Oh.
I think we did like an online thing or something once. Anyway.
Yeah.
What else? The Witch is Dead, which is the one-page adventure
by Grant Howitt from Hardy Dice Friends.
Right. Also, I think I played like a little bit of the Mountain Witch. Mm-hmm. Trying to think of anything else. Honestly, I can't think of anything.
I'm sure there's like a couple other little ones that I maybe played like one session of, but I'm blanking on them.
I've sat in and watched. I cannot think of the name of it, and I might have discussed it at one point, but it was like anime themed. What's that?
Big Eye Small Mouth.
Big Eye Small Mouth.
Oh.
Is that what it was?
I don't know.
Okay.
It was anime themed. You basically played a bunch of anime women who were trying to please their master or something like that, and it wasn't necessarily like as bad as it sounds, even though it could definitely get as bad as it sounds. but like I think it was like you were all like action heroes, and it was very like theater of the mind and like role playing. It like there wasn't a whole lot of stats to it. It was more just trying to like do ridiculous things to complete the mission or whatever, and then like the more ridiculous thing you did, like the more likely you were to gain favor of the master or something like that.
Sure.
It was very interesting to watch. Like they played like a session of D&D, and then they were like, okay, to wind down, let's play this goofy game.
Yeah.
So like I can't remember the name of it, but that one I remember the game. I just don't remember what it was called.
Yeah. It most likely was not this, but there is a D20 anime system called Big Eye Small Mouth.
Okay, that's all right.
So,
yeah,
and it's very popular apparently.
What about you, Justin?
I played a bit of Pathfinder. Not really my bag, but 13th Age. I really enjoyed. I first played it at a convention, and I have to say, if there's one thing that when you create your character, you have to pick a group that you've got these different factions, and you have to pick one that you're at least friendly with or neutral, and another one that you're hostile towards. Yeah. And it affects your interaction, which I thought was really cool. I've played Feng Shui, which is very much like a martial arts kung fu movie-esque RPG, which is very much get as creative as you want, which comes back to my loving the fighters and stuff, because that whole role-playing game pushes that theme is, okay, what's in this room and how can I use it to beat up the other guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then I've played a little bit of Shadowrun. I think that's a really, really cool game.
Sure, Shadowrun.
Gamma World. Have you heard of Gamma World?
I've heard of it, but I haven't played it.
Okay, so if you're a 4th edition lover, you have to try Gamma World. It's basically the 4th edition rules set with a few little tweaks, and these tweaks basically mostly start off in character creation, where you have to pick your armor, and your armor might be, okay, it's going to be a rubber tire. That's my armor. Or my weapon is going to be, a mailbox in this case, Yeah. And so it's very post-apocalyptic, but it's so much fun. And then the most recent one I played is Gateway. If you've listened to our show, Oricon's Lair started making his own game, so I've been playing with that and testing that out. And I really enjoy that because it's very it's freedom-based. You have so much freedom to do what you want, and then the DM just interprets that. I want to cast magic missile. Okay, here's how it works, and so
Sure.
very, very entry level stuff. That's why it's called Gateway. But those are probably the ones that I've played that come right to mind.
Cool. I just remembered 2 more that I have played. GURPS. I've played 1 session of GURPS. Of course, I've listened to a lot of GURPS because that's what the film Reroll uses. But that's it's a pretty popular generic universal role-playing system. That's what it stands for.
Sure.
Another one that I've played is a game called Corellia, which was a role-playing game that a guy that I played with had designed. So I played D&D with the guy who designed it, and 1 session he ran a game of Corellia with us.
Did you ever play Mutants and Masterminds?
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Did you? Okay, I must have spaced out on that.
It's
But yeah, that's one I never actually played that one, but you guys had the books for it, so I remember I was like, I'm going to make a superhero.
I loved making characters in that game.
Right. It's just picking powers from a long list. Yeah, sure.
Fate Accelerated is really good too. I played that a little bit. That was a really good one.
Okay, so you guys want to go ahead and go on to the next one?
Yeah. All right, next question is, what gaming podcasts, if any, do you listen to?
I probably listen to the most of them out of the 3 of us. I probably listen to most of them out of all of us, everyone, everywhere.
Everyone.
I won't list all of them because there's a lot I listen to, but of course, Crit Academy, D&D Character Lab, Adventures in Aurelia. Those are 3 of them that I make sure to listen to every time they come out. Film Reroll I've mentioned before. Adventure Zone is a good one too. Aside from that, tabletop gaming, that's pretty much it. I also listen to Retronauts, retro video games. Anything from duckfeed.tv, which includes Watch Out for Fireballs, Abject Suffering, check it out, Comrade. Any of their, they've got so many podcasts, several of which are gaming related, some of which aren't. The Short Game is another good video game one.
Gabe listens to a lot.
I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I'll take a break. I'll take a break if either of you guys listen to any that you want to mention.
I listen to a lot, not that many, not even close, but I listen to a few D&D Character Lab, obviously InterPartyConflict. Some of my favorites though, that didn't come out right. Some of my favorites that are actual play. I'm a very big stickler for actual play just because I hate to listen to other people play.
I know what you mean, and I feel so bad about it, but
me too.
It's how it is.
God's Fall. If you have not listened to God's Fall, it by far, bar none, is the most highly produced actual play podcast I have ever listened to. He does all the background audio, the spell effects, and it's all perfect.
Cool. I'll have to give them a shot.
Yeah.
God's Fall?
God's Fall, yes. It is without doubt. Matthew Mercer in Critical Role does a great job. Adventure Zone does a great job. But if you want to be immersed in an audio storytelling, book level stuff, it's up there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check them out on your recommendation.
Yeah. Tell him I sent you over.
All right.
I myself, I listen to InterPartyConflict every once in a while.
Yeah, I've heard of them. They're pretty cool.
No, I won't always listen to the whole episode, but
that's fine. I always do because I always want to make sure that there isn't some sort of huge audio error halfway through or whatever, but
it's always I remember a gag or something we did or a sound that you were gonna put in that I maybe haven't heard yet. So
sure.
But and then obviously Crit Academy and the Character Labs are I as much as I have space to listen to podcasts, I usually I can never decide what I want to listen to, and I'm usually in the car when I'm listening to them.
Sure.
And so because I'm driving most of my day, I have to sitting down to focus on what podcast do I know, what episode. I was I'd rather just hit a button and listen to music or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't listen to podcasts as much as I should for somebody who's in a podcast.
Yeah.
But as far as I don't know, the game ones go, not many.
No,
Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. I fully understand not everybody has 40 hours a week to listen to podcasts. So
well, it's not like you have all this free time. It's just
I have free ear time.
Right.
I have time where my ears don't have to be devoted to anything.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of neat. The way that I have it set up is that typically my first day that I work, so I work Wednesday through Saturday. Every Wednesday, that's gaming day. So I listen to, in alphabetical order, I listen to Adventures in Aurelia, and then Crit Academy, then D&D Character Lab, then Hardy Dice Friends. I forgot to mention Hardy Dice Friends.
Of course.
Hardy Dice Friends,
Yes.
then Interparty Conflict, and then usually like Retronauts, the short game, whatever episodes, are out. And then there will be like an episode, a day of the week where, this is the day where I listen to like horror type stuff. And this is the one where I listen to like TV show stuff. And so it's pretty cool.
Gabe listens to so many podcasts. He puts them in alphabetical order and themes them by day.
To be fair, they show up in Windows in alphabetical order, and my MP3 player is really crappy, and so it loads them up in whatever order they were uploaded. I cannot listen to them in an order other than the way I can't choose a separate order.
Okay.
They just play in order. So
okay.
Anyway.
All right. Next question. What do you consider the best alignment and why? I want to start off with this one.
Go for it.
I've been really liking Neutral Evil lately.
Okay.
I don't know why exactly. I must have just been like the last description I read of it, but that really like I was like, because I always ignored all the evils for the most part, because I usually like to play good characters.
Yeah.
But then I was trying to, as I'm coming up with more and more character ideas, I'm like, well, I can't just make all good characters. I have to kind of branch out a little bit. And I was reading the descriptions, and it was like, there was a character I was making. She's a halfling like wizard, and actually I think she's a bard at this point. I keep changing her anyway. and she had like very specific motivations and stuff like that, and like I'm trying to figure out like what alignment she would be. And I thought, what if I made her evil? But she's not like bad. She's just evil.
Yeah.
Like, and I like Neutral Evil because I think it's in the fifth edition description or something. It's basically like it's you do what's best for you.
Yeah.
You do what you want to do for you. And I like that description because it's like you do evil stuff because you want to. It's like, no, you do what you want to do because it's what you want to do. It's a very selfish alignment. Mm-hmm. But I think it like I just like the idea of using it not necessarily to do evil things, but like because like selfishness is seen as an evil. Yeah. In a way. It's on the evil side of the spectrum, but I don't know. I really like Neutral Evil now because it's like I want to make a D&D character who's selfish, not necessarily like I don't want to play them selfishly. I don't want to be a selfish player, but I want to make a selfish character because I've never really done that. I've always made like the selfless paladin or something like that. So Neutral Evil is my current favorite right now.
That works. Yeah, evil doesn't necessarily mean criminal.
Right.
Evil doesn't necessarily mean bad. It, like you said, could just mean selfish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Justin, what about you? What would you say is the best alignment?
I almost agree with him with Neutral Evil, but I even go one step further. I prefer Lawful Evil. To me, any evil, for that matter, is a challenging aspect of integrating my character with the party for whatever reasons that may be. And when I play a lawful evil character, I always try to put them in a situation where their goal is to manipulate the party into achieving a goal that they think is good, but actually helps the bad guys.
Yeah. I think a well-played lawful evil can be a huge asset to the party.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get stuff done. And if the party doesn't need to know about all of it,
I personally, kind of going on a gradient here. I would say lawful neutral is what I would say is my favorite. I think there's really something to be said about a character that is singularly devoted to a cause or to like one code, and it sucks if it doesn't benefit the people that are in need, but it has to be done. Somebody has to do this. And, if somebody's going to stick to what is their code, what is their way of thinking, then, all the power to them.
Yeah, right.
I think that's interesting that none of us were like, good, chaotic good, neutral good. Nope, neutral evil, lawful neutral.
And then for me, it might just be that I don't get to play that as often, and so it feels different and exciting, sure. And why I like it so much. Because, you always play the good guy, but my lawful evil guys are good guys too, just in a different way.
Right. Well, cool.
They're good in their own mind,
Yeah.
All right, next question. Does your group keep track of things like food, water, carrying capacity, cost of living, and how do you feel about it?
I'll say not unless I think not unless that's what I want the struggle to be about.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. In fact, my answer depends on the adventure, because I design entire adventures where that's important, while other adventures it's not important. When you're stranded out in a desert and you're crossing this desert that's supposed to say it takes away and kills everyone that enters it, you need, in order to make that real, you need to make those challenges about food, water, the crap they're carrying doesn't get lost in the transit, cost of living if they don't have money to buy the equipment they need to go out. I mean, but other than that, we don't focus on it all the time.
I mean, I've never run a game myself, but as far as wanting the way I want to play it, I like the convenience of not having to worry about those things in I'd say maybe most cases. But I love survival games.
Sure.
Like, survival games is probably my most played genre right now. I mean, it's one of the highest played genres in the world right now.
Right.
But I love the idea of playing a survival game and having to when you gonna forage for food, like in a D&D game. I've talked about characters I've made where I base it on an idea that just never comes up.
Yeah.
One of the examples I always make is there's a ranger character that I eventually, stopped playing and went to the warlock in the Age of Worms campaign
because he was like, his skill set was obsolete.
Yeah, I was building him to be like a hunter gatherer survival guy, and it just wasn't. We weren't using that it wasn't being used in that adventure.
Right.
So I like the idea of that stuff. Just if that's the theme of the adventure or the campaign, even if it's just for an adventure, you do go through that desert, maybe the rest of the campaign you weren't really worrying about it, but for that time.
Sure.
What I would say in regards to carry capacity, I have used that not so much to track their equipment, but if I've put extremely valuable items in dungeons, in ruins, that they're extremely valuable, but they couldn't get them out because they were too heavy or too big.
Yeah. There's always going to be exceptions. If you of course don't want the players going overboard and be like, oh, I'll just take literally everything out of this dungeon. Then you got to do something.
Anything that's not bolted down.
Right.
I think it was Jazzadarun where there was paintings and stuff in a room somewhere.
Yeah. There's an entire room full of paintings.
Yeah. So we were like, oh, you can't just put that in a backpack. You got to take it out one at a time.
Toss it in your bag of holding along with all your weapons.
Yeah.
The other time that I've used carrying capacity, as I mentioned earlier, we were talking about the bag of holding. I don't usually give that out, and the reason is my players have to have a place to store the stuff they can't carry. When I give them 10,000 silver pieces, I could convert them, but sometimes they just go and grab the hoard to loot and take it back. Well, if they don't find a way to convert it, I don't automatically let them do that all the time. So now they've got these big stockpiles of coins that they got to do something with. So in my cases, in one adventure in one campaign, we actually had banks, something like that. But they have to build strongholds, or they have to build a place to store their stuff, because I don't let them just carry all the gems and jewels that they want, because it takes space. Other than that, I don't worry about it. But
Chris had a character that was a half dragon, and so when the first time he ever got 10,000 gold, I think it was, he got it all converted into copper, and then he slept on it.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Next question: have you or has your DM ever twisted a wish spell against the player? What was the wish, and how did it get twisted? And or why did you twist it?
Yeah. I personally have not ever had to deal with this, either because we never got high enough level, or by the time we did, everybody was too afraid to cast Wish. Yeah. But how about you guys?
So I will say, Ryan, if you're listening, you're a dick. We're running an adventure, and we got to this. We found this Dejin, and he was going to grant us a wish, and our goal was to slay the monstrous dragon on top. But he'll grant me a wish because of some good deed that I did along the way that wasn't really something that was expected of me, right? So it's kind of sure. You did this, here you go. And so I wished for the dragon to just disappear so we could go and save the maiden and blah, blah, blah.
I see where this is going. Okay.
So we get up there, I can see the maiden, we dash towards the maiden, and a big giant dragon breath comes out of nowhere and almost eviscerates, or almost melts my face away.
Yeah.
well, you said I said I wanted him to disappear. Well, he did. He's invisible. I was like, that is not what I meant, and you knew it. So instead of making him go away, he made him invisible, which made that encounter way more difficult, and we died. So
Sure.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I don't think I've ever used a wish spell. The closest thing is Steve used a lot of miracle spells, which works differently.
Yeah, miracle does not specifically works differently. I've used a couple wish spells via a ring of 3 wishes. Like during the EG campaign, there was a point where we got a whole bunch of money, and one of the things that I spent my money on was a ring of 3 wishes. The DM, the guy, his name was John. He was the one that made my character start a war because I failed to save. He was so good at using players' things against them that the first session after I got this ring of 3 wishes, he put me in a situation where I had to blow through 2 of the 3 wishes.
Oh, jeez.
Just to survive the encounter.
That's a neat way to give, like if you want to give your player a wish, but you give them the ring of 3 wishes and then basically make them have to use 2 of them.
I mean, it's not like, I doubt he was like, okay, I need to use up some, I need to make him use these up. It's just he put me in a situation where I had spent so much of this money on Ichi's sword to make Ichi's sword really powerful. He made it intelligent, all this kind of stuff. And then the first thing that he did was cast grease on my sword, so when I tried to use it, it flew out of my hands. And then he had an enemy cast a wall of force around it, and then summon a rust monster into the wall of force with my sword, so my sword got destroyed. And so number 1, before the sword got destroyed, I had to use a wish to try to get rid of the walls of force, which I did, but before I could get to my sword got destroyed, so I had to use a second wish to wish it back.
That is a jerk move.
Yes, it is.
Why would you destroy? That's so mean.
We were like 19th level. We had millions of gold. He did the best he could. Like that was everything was on the table as far as I was.
Right.
Yeah. So other than that, I don't. The only times I've used wishes, everybody was on the level with
it. Our next question: what mythological creature would you like to see in a tabletop game?
Justin, you want to take this one?
Yes, I would love to see Charybdis. If you do not know who Charybdis is, the book The Odyssey. The sea monster Charybdis was believed to live under a small rock on one side of a narrow channel. Opposite her was Scylla, another sea monster, the Hydra, right? That lived inside a much larger rock. The sides of the straits were within an arrow shot of each other, and sailors attempting to avoid one of them would come into reach of the other. So the choice was stuck between, do we fight Scylla or Charybdis? Charybdis was essentially this giant mouth thing in the water that would open up several times a day and would swallow everything. Boats, water, rocks, other monsters, whatever was nearby. And now I've tried to replicate this in 5th edition. I don't feel like I ever get the result that I want. So I feel if there was an actual professional developer, it would probably be better. But this was always one of my favorite things. 'Cause I ended up using a whirlpool or an elemental, water elemental or something. But an idea of a monster that like literally doesn't move, it just occasionally opens up its mouth and sucks everything in, to me was just such a fun idea, because you know it's there, but it's at a location where you know you need to get to. And it's really the only way across. And to me, that creates like an interesting story for like especially like shipgoers or sea campaigns where there's this monster that just randomly just swallows stuff whole. And to me, that was always a really interesting monster. It's not in the DMG, and I really wish it was. And if you guys know where I can find another stat block for that, that would be fantastic.
Sure. And if any of our listeners find one and they want to send it to you, how can they get it to you?
Yes, they can email it to me at critacademy@gmail.com.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I feel like most of the things that I would have come up with for this would be probably from Greek mythology. When I first posted this question, I want to say I had one specific thing in mind, but in preparing for this episode, I couldn't remember what it was. But thinking back now, I would say a mythological creature that I think would be really cool is also from Greek mythology, and it's just kind of the idea of Titans. I know that Titans exist in D&D, like in 3rd edition. There was a an enemy called a Titan, but it was basically just a really big humanoid that had magic powers. Mm-hmm. And I think that it would be really cool to make Titans like they were in Greek mythology, where each of them had like, they were basically like uber gods. Mm-hmm. And so like how gods each have a portfolio with, you know, abilities and so on, so did the Titans. And so I think it would be interesting to see like a super powerful group of beings, each of which has their own, you know, sphere of influence and so on. I think that would be something really cool to explore.
Yeah, we had a guest on for 2 Minute Tabletop where he makes these maps, and I'm pretty sure that I talked to him about an idea he wanted to do where he wanted to draw giant Titan battle maps for people so they can battle on top of these giant monster Titans, and I think combined with that, it would be just awesome.
Yeah, like Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes, very much Shadow of the Colossus.
Speaking of very, very large myth creatures, well, the Zaratan already exists.
Okay.
In D&D, but I don't know if there's ever been stats made for like the world turtle.
Sure.
I don't know how you pronounce it. Atuin from Discworld. For the Discworld series, this is the world, the world that they live on.
Yeah, turtle on the turtle back.
Yeah. So basically, I always like the idea of having like living on an island that's actually on a turtle, but even better, living on a having a campaign that's based on basically Discworld or something like that.
Sure.
So, but kind of going with the Titan-sized or map-sized monsters.
Sure, yeah.
Really, really big turtle is where I'm going with this.
Yeah. Why am I not surprised, Jeff?
I'm full of surprises.
There's not currently a book that has like deity stat blocks, right?
Not for 5th edition, no.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think one of the other questions on here is PCs meeting or fighting gods, yay or nay. And if you don't mind, I'll mention that one. I think that when a deity has a stat block, anything that has a stat block can be killed. And I think that if your deity can be killed by being hit with a weapon hard enough, I think that that's not really what most people expect when they see a deity. I think that there should be a way to kill a deity, but it should not be mechanics based.
Sure. Yeah. Could be, it's like story based or something.
Yeah. In general, I think that it's better when deities are divorced from the game itself enough that a canny player or character might even ask, "Are they actually there?"
Sure. I mean, like I don't know, the idea of deities in like D&D, like you can go either way with it. Where I mean, like, you could go like the full pantheon where like they are these like incredible beings with all these powers and these huge stat blocks and things like that, or it could just be like extraordinary people who are like worshipped or something, you know.
Yeah,
that's cool. I like that.
And like I think that's kind of isn't that what you have going in your like Gabe has like a campaign setting he's been working on. It's sort of like that.
In my campaign setting, well, the original idea was that gods did not actually exist. It was all myth, and the player, like all the characters that got powers from deities, were just getting power from their devotion to the deities. I've sort of evolved that idea a little bit to the point where there are beings out there that all of these legends came from. Some of them are in fact super powerful. Some of them do in fact still exist somewhere out there, but not a single one of them is exactly as the legends portray them.
Sure.
Right.
To the point where there are two warring deities that have been warring for hundreds of years. Their churches have been fighting amongst each other and so on. There's all these legends about the two of them. And in the end, the reader or the players or whatever would find out that they were actually based on the same person.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Different acts of the same person.
Exactly.
I think you've talked about that in the show before, because I recall.
I think so, yeah.
When it comes to deities, I had a interesting campaign where I ran where deities could be killed. The problem with the deities and why they seem so omnipotent is once somebody killed them, their essence overtook that more powerful foe. So essentially they were, like poltergeist type beings, where every time they were defeated, they would overtake this new person and acquire that person's experience. So thus, that's how they build up so much knowledge and power over time, is because anytime somebody challenged them, they just took over that person, and now they've got all their memories plus like the Avatar type stuff where they've got all the previous knowledge of any previous quote unquote heroes that conquered this deity.
Sure.
And I ended up not liking that as much. The idea early on really, and maybe I just didn't flush it out enough, but you ever watch the Groundhog's Day? Very much like that. The guy's just been around for so long that's why they feel like they know everything,
Right.
But
oh man, yeah.
Groundhog Day as an RPG.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking just like that character, Bill Murray's character in a D&D campaign. And he basically like people see him as a deity or something like that.
Yeah.
Bill Murray, the deity. Like,
that's funny.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. What is your favorite race to play and why?
Jeff, would you like to answer this one first?
Sure. Although I do like the turtle. I do like the turtle.
It's a little new. It's hard to pass such a strong judgment.
Right. It is new, and it's not exactly how I'd make a turtle race.
Sure.
It's not my ideal turtle race. My favorite race to play has always been Warforged. Warforged from the Eberron campaign setting. Just ever since the Eberron book came out, I'm like, oh yeah, obviously I want to play the robot.
Of course,
like,
of course.
Like, who wouldn't want to play a robot in a D&D setting? But I also I like the story of them because it's like they've only been around for so long because they were built for a war that like came and went, and so now there's just a bunch of them that are just kind of like, well, we were built for war and now there's not as much war anymore. What do we do? Yeah. And then so some people use them as labor, and like other people just use them as soldiers and stuff like that. So there's all and then there's the Warforged rights and like are they living or are they not? And I liked the thing where they explain like there was like a judgment passed that yes, they do have a soul because raised dead works on them or something like that.
Okay.
It was something to that effect where it was like there was like some big trial as to whether or not like Warforged were considered living in the Eberron world, and like they were like, well, like a cleric can cast a raise dead spell on a dead Warforged and it comes back to life. Therefore, there must be something alive in there. Otherwise, the deity wouldn't have brought it back or whatever.
Man, how crazy would law be if magic existed?
Right?
It's like, well, we got to give them rights because this magic spell treats them the same as it treats everybody else.
Well, Gabe, there's a thing called science.
That's okay. Good point. Good point.
There's a thing called science, and there are like scientific laws and facts and things like that laws should be based on. But we'll for another another podcast,
another episode.
So, but yeah, Warforged robots, and to me they're so lovable. I don't know. Sure. I just want to hold them.
So do you ever take a Warforged and make them a druid so they're like a robot in disguise type of thing?
Absolutely.
Because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, there's a piece of art. I couldn't tell you the artist. I'd have to go look at it again, but there's just this little piece of art somebody made that I use as like an avatar on some websites sometimes, like on forums and stuff. And it's just a Warforged druid. He's got branches growing over him, and there's like a little bird in the branch that he's looking at or something. It's really cute.
That's cool.
I like Warforged.
Yeah. Justin, how about you? What's your favorite player race?
Honestly, I like being a Goliath.
Oh yeah, Goliaths are good.
Just because no matter what type of character I build with a Goliath, I always feel like just standing around is intimidating. And I feel like my character has this power just being in a room, like literal elephant in the room type of stuff, where he's got control over it no matter whether I'm a bard or whether I'm a barbarian or whether I'm a wizard. I mean, Goliath wizard's hilarious, by the way.
Sure.
But I've always liked it because I always would... Like, when I would go to, like, a dwarven building or something, I would say, well, when I walk in, I hit my head, Stupid stuff like that. And I would always just take advantage of the fact that he's so tall. So where is your outhouse? I can't fit into that. So he would, like, rip the outhouse in half so he could, go in the, so stupid things like that because he's so big. And I've always loved stuff like that. So I'm going to go with Goliath.
Okay. I'm going to be the boring one, and I'm going to say human. I always end up playing humans. I like how they're not great at anything, but they're not bad at anything.
Very versatile.
And especially if I'm going to be role-playing, it's easy for me to get into the head of a human, easier than if I wanted to get into the head of like an elf who's been living for 500 years.
Yeah, it's always hard to turn down a free feat too.
Yeah.
In most of the editions, you at least get some sort of free feat or some variant of it.
Yeah.
It's very tempting, and like every time I'm developing a character, I'm like, if I could just start with this feat, I could make this character so much cooler. But then he would just be a human. Ugh.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is, what is your least favorite magic item?
Yes, and I do have one here. The bag of holding, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I mentioned earlier, everybody has one.
Sure.
Everybody has one. We mentioned a few episodes ago, if there's an ability that everybody has, just take it out.
Sure, yeah.
Either give it to everybody by default or take it out. Like, it shouldn't be something that everyone is going to have to spend resources on, because then it should just be part of the game.
Right, sure.
Also, I think that especially in like, discussion boards on the internet, people get way too bogged down on the quote unquote physics of how a bag of holding works. And they forget the fact that it is a bag that is designed to hold things. Every discussion about a bag of holding ends up being about, oh, well, what if you pour this much water into the bag of holding, or like you put the bag of holding underwater, will it explode because it takes in too much water? No, it's a bag. A plastic bag underwater does not explode because it gets too much water in it, because it is a bag. The fact that it doesn't gain weight doesn't mean that it's not still a bag. Yes, there's some BS, quote unquote, magic science, whatever, behind like, oh, it's an extra dimensional space, and if it takes in too much weight, it ruptures, whatever. But if I have a bag and I try to put too much water into that bag, it's going to spill over. It's not going to explode. It's not even necessarily going to tear. It's going to just overflow.
It'll just fill up.
Either the bag has a limit on how much weight it can carry, or has a limit on how much space it can carry. If the limit is based on the space, then that means like if you toss I don't even know how to express this.
There's a limit of how much water can go into it. Therefore, if you drop it in the ocean, it'll just take in that much water and then stop.
I guess So if it has this much cubic space in the middle, but it can hold this other amount of weight, people say, oh, that means if you pour water in, it's going to keep filling until it reaches the spatial limit. Therefore, it's going to get destroyed because that much water would weigh more than the limit. So what you're saying is that it's not a gigantic space in there. It can expand to be a giant space in there. But if you put one gold coin into your bag of holding, you don't have to reach 10 feet down to get that gold coin. Because it is a bag. You can just reach in, and it is there because it is a bag that you put a gold coin in. Therefore, if you were to put water in, I would imagine, unless it was designed by an idiot, I would imagine that the water would fill it up until it reached the limit, and then it would spill over. If you tried to force water in there, I could see it exploding. It's just everybody's always looking for a way to destroy bags of holding by telling their players that, oh, no, it can't hold that much. Well, then how could I put it in there if it couldn't hold that much? I'm sorry, this is becoming an impromptu Gabe rants about something. But
Gabe, tell us how you really feel.
Everyone forgets that a bag of holding is a bag. If it does not function as a bag, it is a useless magic item. It is a bag first, an extra dimensional space second. What's that?
Have you seen the stupid diagram contraption of a guy putting like a contraption on the end of an arrow with a bag of holding?
That is, I mean, that's a clever idea in keeping with what the rules have been put forward as. But like, I just think all this stuff about a bag of holding inside a bag of holding does this and so on. I just think people get so bogged down in the like physics, quote unquote, of a bag of holding, they miss the fact that guys, it's a bag. You put things in it and it doesn't gain weight. That is what it is. The extra dimensional space, the bag of holding and a bag of holding, those were just things that I'm guessing Gary Gygax or somebody else came up with on the spot to just tell a player, no, you can't do that. You can't have an infinite loop of bag of holdings by putting one inside another, then one inside another, and so on and so on. So they made up some BS rule about, oh no, it blows up or whatever if you put a bag of holding in a bag of holding. But it makes everything worse. Guys, it's a bag. Just let it be a bag.
You put your lunch in it.
Yes.
There's a very important question here, Gabe.
Yeah.
Is it paper or plastic?
Ooh, man, that's a tough one.
Canvas.
I mean, it is canvas, but could there be a paper bag of holding?
You take your canvas bags to the supermarket.
Yeah, and if it's paper and it gets wet, problem solved. It just disintegrates.
Yeah. I have played with people and talked to people online who interpreted the handy haversack, because handy haversack has a special ability that, like, if you think of an item, it's automatically on top, so it's easier to retrieve. I've had people interpret that to mean you cannot get an object out of it unless you know it's there. And it's like, no, it is a bag. If I don't know that my keys are in this bag, if I am searching through this bag, I'll eventually find my keys whether I know they're there or not.
Hey, Gabe, you know what? You've not messed with my backpack. I know my keys are in there. I just can't get them out.
It's just like, yes, I know it has all these bobs and whistles, but like, it is a bag. If it doesn't function as a bag, it is a worthless item. Anyway, sorry.
So, Justin, what's your
least favorite magic item, Justin?
Honestly, I'm going to be kind of bland here. I hate the items that are just +1 magic items.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Not because they're just +1, but because everyone just treats them as +1s instead of trying to come up with a story of why is this item better. Like for a +1 magic sword. Why a +1 magic sword? No, what you have is a sword that's been drenched in the blood of demons and has absorbed some of their energy or something. You know, something along those lines. The whole plus and minus one, the +1 thing needs, in my opinion, needs to go. But
yeah,
that's just me.
Yeah, no, I can totally get behind that. The most boring magic item can be made awesome if you're willing to put in the work. People just don't do it. It's always just like, okay, you found a +1 item. You found a +1 sword.
And I agree 100%, but people aren't going to do that, so don't even put those in there. Just leave the other magic items that actually have really cool descriptions and sound awesome, and just get rid of those.
Yeah, what if there weren't +1 magic items, but there were frost brands or flame tongues? You know, like those sorts of magic items that, like, they do something really, really cool. Mm-hmm. You know, just get rid of the ones that don't need to be there.
Right. Now, like, I've got nothing against them. I understand why they're there. But no, I don't.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In my game, those aren't magic items. They are superior crafted items. A +1's like a dwarven crafted. A +2's like elven crafted or whatever. You know, it's not magical.
Yeah. When we did our 4th edition Shackle City campaign a couple years ago, that's what we did, because 4th edition is much more utilitarian about what the magic items are. So, like, magic items, it is a plus this and a plus that and so on, because you have to have those pluses in order to play the game. So magic items don't feel like magic. So when we played, I told everybody, like, those are not magic items.
Okay.
Magic items don't conform to those types of rules at all. You'll get a +1 whatever, but story-wise, it's not magic. It's just, you just have a sword that just lets you do something you already do, but do it a little better.
Yeah, that's kind of why we went with the crafting. If somebody crafts a sword, I'm going to give them a +1 to it, because they put all this time and effort into it. It needs to be better than the hunk of junk that they're buying from the rusty old smith down the block, you know?
Right, yeah. They gotta be a reason, you know, they have to have something they got out of it if they're gonna go through all that trouble.
Or even like the legendary weapons, you know? Maybe the King Arthur sword is just a +1 magic sword, but it's got all this lore behind it that makes it interesting. It's not just a +1, it's Excalibur, you know?
Sure.
So, anyways. Sorry, that's not quite the rant you had.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Jeff, you got a least favorite magic item?
I don't know.
Bag of holding. I agree, Jeff.
I was gonna say wands.
Okay.
Just because it's like a consumable thing.
Yeah.
And like I like stuff that I can use. That's why I like the more mundane things, because they typically are like you can use them more often. Like something something that's really simple, not that powerful, but you can use it all the time. You find ways to use it. You're like, if I can use this all the time, I want to find as many ways to use it as possible.
Sure.
If I got a wand that's got 3 charges, I'm going to hold on to that thing for dear life and, hope I never have to use it, and then never use it, because what if I need it? What if I need it next time?
Yeah.
So like and I've been trying to get away from that in playing video games with the consumables and stuff. I try to use them more often now, but I still have that dilemma every time. It's like, well, I just kind of put them in a bag of holding of some sort. And
Jeff,
what?
You're treading on thin ice here.
well, if that ice melts, we could just put it into the bag of holding. Anyway.
Jeff, I'm gonna puncture that bag of holding so fast.
So yeah, so I think wands, and then a stab. Although stabs, I want to say usually have like. Do stabs have recharging charges?
Well,
I think?
fifth edition has
wands are recharge at dawn now too, don't they?
Well, yeah, they in 5th edition wands have a certain number of charges per day, and then those come back. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think most of them, if you use up the last charge, there's a chance that it becomes non-magical. Am I mixing that with something else?
I know staffs do. If you consume the last one, there's a chance you roll a d20. If it's a 1, like turns to ash. But I think his point still stands, though. Anything that
I agree.
Yeah.
Anything that is like a number of charges, it feels less special to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually something really cool, and like you could use it. So like the Ring of 3 Wishes, it's the Ring of 3 Wishes, but I mean, like you only get 3 wishes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you can only use it 3 times.
Right.
So whether or not it's a wish or a magic missile spell, you're only going to be able to use this 3 times. Well, I guess I should just hang on to this for emergencies. And then that emergency comes and goes, and you're like, oh, I had that thing in my bag. Oh, I could have used that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like you're like, well, next time I'm definitely going to use it, and you end up using it on something stupid, or you just forget about it completely.
Exactly, yeah.
Quick pro tip, slight tangent. You ever want to be pro at any video games? Use all your your cooldowns and all your consumables, because I'll tell you what. I become top tier player because I don't hold that.
yeah. That's.
I could definitely use some of that.
Yeah, that's why I've been I've been getting better. At least in video games, I've been getting better at using my consumables.
Yeah.
It's that I chant to myself, oh, I should use them. That's my mantra.
Yeah.
All right, next one is, what movie would you like to see made into an RPG? And conversely, what RPG would you like to see made into a movie?
Yeah. You guys got an answer?
I do.
Okay, go for it.
So, as a movie, I'm only picking this movie because I love the book. The books is the Aragon series.
Okay.
I think that would be an amazing RPG with the way the magic in the world works. And I don't know if you know how much you know about, if you know anything about that, but... Like in that, the magic is like based off of your thought. So instead of trying to counter spells, you're trying to counter somebody's thought process. And I don't know, in the world with the dragons almost all being gone and being this rare magical beast, and it's such an amazing novel or series. And I think it would make an awesome RPG, and I would love to do that.
Yeah. Do you have an RPG you'd like to see made into a movie? I know that's probably the side of the question that I'm less excited to answer.
Gamma World.
Okay.
Because I just want to see some worms kicking somebody's ass.
I'll say for RPG I would like to see made into a movie, I would like to see a D&D movie done well. But that's tough because D&D isn't a story, it is a medium.
Right, yeah.
That's like saying I would love to see Video Game the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, what's the story about? As far as a movie I would like to see made into an RPG, Goonies.
Oh, sure. Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Goonies Tabletop would be pretty good.
I mean, come on, there's traps, there's exploration, there's some role playing involved.
I could definitely see that being made into like a decent board game or a card game or something like that for sure. Trying to think. The thing that popped into my mind isn't actually a movie at all. It's a video game. Gosh,
I mean, go for it.
Well, okay. I'll twist it. I'll twist it so it works. Okay. So, the video game series Monkey Island.
Sure.
I once tried to turn that into a D&D adventure, the first Monkey Island game. And I was like, and as I was thinking of this, I was like, wait, Monkey Island's not a movie, it's a game. And I was like, wait a minute, but Pirates of the Caribbean is kind of based on Monkey Island in a way, although I've heard somebody say that like they're both based on the same book, but if you look at it, there's some theory as to that the Pirates of the Caribbean, at least parts of it, were inspired by the game, not necessarily the book that the game was inspired by.
Oh, I see. And so what you can do is you can say Pirates of the Caribbean and wink, and we will know that you mean Monkey Island.
Wink to the microphone.
Yes.
But specifically, I liked there's a mechanic in the first game where when you're sword fighting, you don't you're not playing a video game sword fighting like reacting to Sure. You use insults. So insults and comebacks. So like an insult and comeback system, I think would be kind of a neat thing. So you basically you start off, you learn sword fighting from a guy on this island, and he kind of he tells you a couple of these insults, and so you have to kind of work with that. And so you come across other pirates, and they start throwing insults at you, and then you use one of your two comebacks, and they're like, that was dumb, and then they beat you or whatever. So then the next time you come across another guy, you use the insult that you just learned, and then he'll use a good comeback against you and beat you. And so but now you know the new insult and a new comeback.
There you go.
And then and so you basically memorize all these insults and all these comebacks, and then you fight these guys, and so you're matching. It's a matching game, so you're matching up insults with comebacks and stuff like that. But then you fight the sword master, and the sword master, she's so much better than you that you don't get to insult her. She's only insulting you, but she's
just have comebacks,
and you just have comebacks. So you only have the comebacks that you learned. But she's using different insults. Ooh. So you have to figure out what comeback matches with her insults. So it's a whole new list of insults that you have to learn, and but you have to you can only use the comebacks that you've learned. So if there's some that you missed, and so she used one, if she used an insult that you just don't have a comeback that works for, you'll lose against her. So I don't know, that was a fun time in my childhood playing that game, and learning all the insults and comebacks to the Monkey Island game.
That sounds fun. I'm gonna have to try that now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do a couple quick ones here. What's your ideal group size, Justin?
4 to 5.
Gabe?
3 players plus a DM.
Sure. 3. Well, that's all I've ever really played, so that's good for me too.
Okay.
Favorite D&D themed video game?
Ooh. I mean, Tower of Doom was really, really good.
I love Neverwinter Nights.
Oh, dang, I should have said that one. Can I change my answer?
Go ahead, because that was going to be my answer too.
Okay, all right. Neverwinter Nights from all of us. They're re-releasing Neverwinter Nights with updated graphics. It's the original one.
Yep, gotta buy it.
Yeah. Cool. I only recently played the expansions and stuff. They're pretty nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played the first one like crazy. So if you could play the tabletop game of your choice with anyone, living or dead, what would you play, and who would you play it with?
I personally would say I would play with Jim Varney, the man who played Ernest in all of the Ernest movies. I mean that completely unironically. I am a huge fan of Jim Varney. Before I started my current job, I did an Ernest marathon where I watched every Ernest movie, every episode of Ernest's TV show, and every a compilation of every commercial he was ever in. I even kept track of how many times he said no to me. Because Jim Varney, from all accounts that I've read, was a brilliant person. He was genius level intelligence, and he always got frustrated with fans because they thought he was this dumb yokel wasn't. I would love to play Dungeons and Dragons with Jim Varney because I am so interested in what characters he would play and how he would role play them.
Sure. Okay.
How about you guys?
Wow.
It's not real chess with Gary Kasparov.
Okay. Was he one of like the chess champions?
Yes.
Oh man.
I grew up reading all about him, and that would be awesome.
Cool. This is something I didn't know about you. Are you really good at chess?
I would say I'm really good. I wouldn't say I'm great. I was on a chess team and stuff like that.
Oh, good job.
So
cool. Yeah, that would be really cool to go up against like one of the best people in the field.
Yeah, and I wouldn't fall for the stupid 4-turn move thing.
Sure. I've fallen to that at least once.
I can't think of anything.
Oh, you should play D&D with one of the hosts of InterPartyConflict. Not that Gabe guy, though.
Well, my first instinct would be like, I'd play D&D with Gabe.
Aw, Jeff, shucks.
You know, that was going to be my answer, but I didn't want to kiss too much ass tonight.
Here's a weird thing I just thought of. I would love to play a role-playing game with myself.
Oh,
because
sure.
I'm genuinely curious, and I'm sure like you guys would probably like to do the same with yourselves. I'm genuinely curious what it would be like to play with someone who has my exact same level of competence, whether that is high or low.
Well, yeah. Well, it's good that you would be able to learn from yourself.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. I've always thought of that. Like if you could interact with an exact copy of yourself, like if you would learn anything, or if it would just go in like it would be like an echo chamber or something.
Yeah.
Well, if you're interested, the Night Squire is a solo D&D adventure. The Death Knight Squire on DM's Guild, I think.
I'll have to check that out. And I'll put that in the show notes.
It's very cool. I'll be having him on the show soon. So,
how long are your play sessions? Would you rather they be shorter or longer?
Yeah. I think generally when I'm not doing something for the library, our play sessions are probably like 4 or 5 hours. I would say like that's probably what I like them to be. They actually, come to think of it, usually go a lot longer than that.
Yeah, I'd say like we intend them to be about 4 or 5 hours, but like they can sometimes stretch to like 8.
Sure.
Like
sure.
there were a few nights that we went for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why I said they are usually 4 or 5 hours. That's not right at all.
Yeah. I'm a 3 hours guy. By the time everyone gets here and gets settled and we start playing, 3-hour game times, all I'm good for, because it's hard herding cats sometimes.
Yeah. And you tend to, when you run a game, like you get like really into everything. I can imagine that being really exhausting over time.
I stand and I'm very animated.
Right.
Seating and snacks, what makes for a good, comfortable gaming environment? I would say the comfier the chairs, the worse.
Okay.
Cause like it's like when you have if your chair's too comfy, then you're not going to be focused on the game. I just remember playing in Jay's basement. Like,
the couch was so comfortable.
The couch was comfortable. The chairs were pretty comfortable, but like they were like armchairs at a dining table basically.
Yeah.
And so like you had to kind of sit up on the edge of the chair. So like in order to get the full comfiness of the chair, you have to be sitting back in it, and there's no way that I'm going to see the tabletop.
Right.
You know, like I'm not going to be at attention when I'm sitting comfortably in that chair. You know, or I'd be like sitting sideways, so like my legs are over one of the armrests or something like that. So,
yeah.
So like, you don't want it to be too uncomfortable. Like not like, you know, don't sit on a stone bench or anything.
I was going to make you sit on Legos next time we played.
Attack.
Justin, how about you?
Snacks, yes.
Okay.
Snacks are important.
Any particular snacks that you think are ideal?
I hate bags of chips, honestly, because they're loud and distracting.
And they get your hands all greasy.
Yeah,
Right.
I like nuts. I think those are a perfect snack. They're not too loud. You can put them in a big giant bowl for everyone to eat out of and kill your nut allergy buddy. So,
Yep.
but yeah, nuts
Okay.
I think are a good one, and it's not totally greasy and not terrible for you.
Yeah,
That's true.
I used to really like Now and Laters, the candy, but I cannot. It was the worst thing in the world to play D&D while eating them because no one can understand what I'm saying.
Now and later.
Exactly. Maybe I'll put some audio of me actually eating a Now and Later into this.
Yeah. Always have a thing of now and laters at every session.
Yeah. But those are especially bad. I love when there's just like something to drink nearby, like if there's like 2 liters or something not too obtrusive. that you can just whenever you need to drink, because keep them caffeine and whatever.
Yeah.
I wish I could show you this disaster that's next to me. That's just off screen. I've got like 7 bottles on this lower shelf because I'm lazy and I never take them all out. So there's just a bunch of water bottles down there that are empty.
Sure.
In our friend's basement, we used to play, and there was some ducting that kind of came down over the table, and there was a little bit of space between the ceiling and the ducting. And we whenever we'd finish a 2-liter bottle, we'd stick it up there. So there was just like a little row of them. Jeez.
But yeah, I love to drink soda while we're playing. Like in my basement, I have a little mini fridge that is perpetually full of RC Cola.
Yep, completely full of RC Cola.
It's actually quite empty right now. I need to refill.
Oh, I was gonna say, is it full because nobody else is drinking it, or because you constantly keep it full?
That's a part of it. It is mostly me, but when there's people over, people drink it. in my defense, anyway.
All right, and what is a character class or archetype that you never play, and why do you never play it?
Sure. Justin, you got one?
Yes. I don't like the Warlock.
Oh, no.
Now, don't get me wrong. I understand all the merits and the benefits and all the mechanics of it and why it's cool. But no matter how many times I played the Warlock, I always felt that I was shrugged into pushing out Eldritch Blasts. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it's simple and it's easy to deal with. To me, and it could just be me, I didn't feel like I had a lot of room to be creative other than describing how it looks like flaming skulls coming at you,
Yeah.
But that's just me. Though the Hexblade is pretty cool now, so.
Yeah, the Hexblade is.
But because of that, I don't generally play Warlocks. I did a couple times just so when I got to the part in my show where I talked about them, I had experience with them, but not something that I would probably play again.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It's just that Eldritch Blast is it is so easy to make it really powerful that I feel like every single Warlock they're like, well, that's all I need to do.
Right. And for a new player, that could be great. It's simple. Sure. Here you go. Just cast Eldritch Blast.
Yeah, somebody who just really likes DBZ or something like that. They're like, I just shoot energy blasts all the time. That's all I want to do anyway.
Yeah. Jeff, do you got one?
I guess Archmage. I rarely play full blown spellcasters. I like the Warlock because it's more simplified and you can do things more often. Again, with my thing with magical items, I like having this a handful of things that you can do, but you can do them all the time. They might not be as powerful,
right?
Or they might not be useful in every situation, but because you can use them all the time, you can figure out a way to use them.
Yeah.
So a full spellcasting, a straight caster. I typically I like the idea because I like the idea of having all these things to my at my disposal, but I don't know, I can't bring myself to have too many choices, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I would say for me, anything that has to do with nature, druids or rangers. You'll never see me playing a druid or a ranger unless someone comes up with a really good character concept for one, because I don't know why. The idea of playing a nature-based character does not interest me in the least. And I don't know why that is, but it just doesn't.
I like rangers.
One time I almost played a druid, and that was because it was this weird variant druid from Dragon Magazine that all of their powers, all their spells were based on metal rather than nature.
Was it the urban druid?
No, it was called the metal master. It was something stupid sounding. But it was like a variant druid where all their abilities had been swapped out for metal versions.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So I don't know why, but it just nature-based classes do not interest me at all.
Okay, got it. Gabe hates tree huggers.
I guess. I don't know.
Hates bags and trees.
I do. Bags of trees. Oh, don't get me started.
I'm going to send a little gift to his house. He's going to open it. It'll be a paper bag with some plants in it.
There's just a bunch of twigs in it.
My wife actually really likes gardening, so I think she would appreciate that. Okay. Well, I think that'll just about do it for this episode. Before we close out, Justin, do you want to tell everybody once again about Crit Academy?
Yes, our show is a weekly Dungeons & Dragons podcast where the whole goal is to provide guidance to our heroes and deliver new and reusable material for both players and DMs. We deliver new and reusable content for you to bring with your game tonight. Check us out. Every episode we give, 5, 6, how many on our tips and tricks do I have now? I don't even know anymore. But we give player tips, DM tips, monster variants, character concepts every episode.
Not only that, but you give away free stuff to your listeners.
Oh, yeah, we bribe you. I forgot about that.
Yes.
Yeah, we bribe you. We've got sponsors that allow us to give away some really amazing adventures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Crit Academy, it's a great podcast. I recommend everybody check them out. All right. If anybody wanted to submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, a running list of questions asked, and important links, go to interpartyconflict.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, or our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, where I post weekly discussion questions for you. We're also on Twitter at InPartyConflict. We're on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you feel like donating, we have a PayPal donate button on our website. Anything you can give us would go towards making the show better. Also, head on over to audibletrial.com/conflict and get yourself a free audiobook. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from. I guarantee you'll find something you like 100% for free. And if you take our short survey at bit.ly/interpartyconflict, you can get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So once again, Justin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so happy to have you. So happy to celebrate our anniversary with you here.
Congratulations. Yeah. Woo!
Thank you.
All the ding noises.
Ding, 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 everything. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Ding.
All right. And until next time, Jeff.
Wait, I had something for this.